Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kwadash Barakatham. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and peace and salutations to Ya'akim out there pushing this word in truth and sincerity. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Raya with another video, and I got a few articles and scriptures just going into this wicked holiday, Halloween, which are in that time of the season. And the first article I'll be reading from is on endoftheamericandream.com, and the title reads, "Is it okay to celebrate Halloween?" And it's not if you're a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American, the true children of Israel, because we're not supposed to hearken unto the ways of these other heathen nations, which is the main reason we were brought down and put into all these different captivities. We have our high holy days such as the Passover, the Day of Atonement, the Purim, what have you, and these are holy, righteous days unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, not wicked like these other holidays that these heathens celebrate, and we'll see just how wicked these holidays are. For many Americans, it is a time for blood rituals and unspeakable acts of evil. And it's very fitting that they got a so-called white woman or Edomite woman as their image right here, the perfect representation of that whore Babylon, because you Edomites are all into wickedness in the left-hand side. What I'm about to share with you is incredibly disturbing. Every year on October 31st, some of the most horrifying acts imaginable are carried out in dark corners and back rooms all across America, also known as Babylon the Great. In this article, you are going to read about some of those acts, but for most Americans, and a lot of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, Halloween is supposedly an innocent holiday that is all about dressing up, eating lots of candy, and having fun. When I was growing up, I gladly participated in the festivities too, and admittedly I did as well as a lot of other brothers in this truth, but once we put away those childish things and became adults and started learning about the truth of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, we started learning just how wicked this world was and how imperative it is to leave off that old man of this world and put on that new man of the truth, because I didn't understand what the holiday was all about. According to the National Retail Federation, approximately 70% of all Americans celebrate Halloween, and a total of somewhere around $9 billion will be spent on the holidays this year. But most Americans do not understand that almost all our modern Halloween traditions have their roots in a bloody ancient pagan festival known as Samhain. And I'd recommend you brothers check out a movie called Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which deals with Samhain and shows the bloody origins of Halloween and how it's all about sacrifice to demons and pagans and what have you. But this brings me to my first precept in Nahum chapter 3 verse 4. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, which you know is America, which is that spiritual Sodom and Egypt as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8, and also Babylon the Great as pursuant to Revelation verse 18, because America is all those other ancient pagan cultures wrapped into one and perfected. The mistress of witchcrafts, such as the Samhain Halloween ritual that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts. And what do we just read? They make $9 billion a year on Halloween through the costumes and candy, with a lot of these Americans not knowing that it goes back to these ancient pagan rituals of child and blood sacrifices. And just because the majority of you people aren't actually doing that, you're in the spirit of that vibration, which gives power to these demons during this time. Behold, I am against thee, saith Yahweh of hosts, and I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will shew the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. And we're seeing Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai do that right now through these articles coming out on the origins of these holidays, and chiefly through the men of the Lord who are making these epistles further exposing the wickedness of this world. The origins of Halloween are Celtic in tradition and have to do with observing the end of summer sacrifices to gods in Druidic tradition. In what is now Britain and France, it was the beginning of the Celtic year, and they believed Samhain, the Lord of Death, sent evil spirits abroad to attack humans who could escape only by assuming disguises and looking like evil spirits themselves. Starting to ring a bell? The waning of the sun and the approach of dark winter made the evil spirits rejoice and play nasty tricks. Believe it or not, most of our Halloween practices can be traced back to these old pagan rites and superstitions. Of course, most Americans have never heard of Samhain, but for those that are into witchcraft, it is one of the most important days of the year. The largest witchcraft tradition in America is known as Wicca, and if you do a Google search for Wicca and Halloween, you will quickly discover that it is one of the key dates on their Wheel of the Year. On the Wiccan calendar, known as the Wheel of the Year, it is also the day when the god dies to be reborn again on the winter solstice. Samhain is therefore the day when the veil between the living and the dead is considered thinnest, and is a time to remember people in our lives who have passed away. You may not personally know any Wiccans, but the truth is that their numbers are absolutely exploding in the United States. And according to one recent news article, there were at least 340,000 of them living in America a decade ago. While the U.S. government does not regularly collect detailed religious data because of concerns that it may violate the separation of church and state, several organizations have tried to fill the data gap. From 1990 to 2008, Trinity College in Connecticut ran 3 large detailed religion surveys. Those have shown that Wicca grew tremendously over this period. From an estimated 8,000 Wiccans in 1990, they found there were about 340,000 practitioners in 2008. And more recently, polling suggests that there are now between 1 million and 1.5 million people that identify as either Wicca or pagan currently living in the United States. Although Trinity College hasn't ran a survey since 2008, the Pew Research Center picked up the baton in 2014, and it found that 0.4% of Americans, or around 1 to 1.5 million people, identify as Wiccan or pagan, which suggests continued robust growth for the communities. And what did we just read in Nahum? That well-favored harlot that selleth nations and families through a witchcraft, through the media and movies and politicians and what have you. They've opened up people to this idea of embracing this left-hand magic, such as Wicca or witchcraft or what have you. And that's why you're seeing all this wickedness go on in this country and all around the world. These people are given over to that left-hand magic, and that's a reason why this place is going to be destroyed. And this brings me to Exodus chapter 22 verse 18. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. So all these Wicca people or these witches or these warlocks need to be put to death, because you're seeing the fruits of their labor. You're seeing all this wickedness going on, this homosexual pedophilia, bestiality vibration, because the elites of this system, and also your politicians and even down to your low-level mayors, are masons and witches and warlocks, and they're on that vibration of this new world order, pushing all this wickedness. So that's why they need to get put to death, because if they don't, you're seeing what the fruits of their labor are. And I'm gonna jump to verse 20. He that sacrificeth unto any god save unto Yahweh only, he shall be utterly destroyed. And you people in a modern sense sacrifice unto these new gods of this system by giving into the power of the US dollar, or worshiping these celebrities such as Beyonce, who's definitely a witch. She should be put to death, because if you look at her if you listen to her music or look at her live performances, it's all full of pagan idolatry. And that's why a lot of you 2/3 are going to get put to death during Jacob's trouble, because you're giving your power unto these new gods such as Beyonce, and not to your true power, which is Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai. So we are talking about a very large group of people. Many Wiccans and pagans seek to follow the ancient rituals as closely as possible, but there is one huge problem. On Samhain, the rituals would often involve human blood. According to Christian author Bill Schnoebelen, human sacrifice was absolutely essential for the Druidic ceremonies. Druids worshiped the sun god, called by names like Baal, Baal, or Crom. On October 31st, real quick, This is to show that these elites are very crafty in putting this left-hand magic into your media. That word Crom is the name of the god that Conan the Barbarian worships in those movies. On October 31st, they believed that he died and went into the kingdom of the dead, Anwen. The purpose of Samhain was to ensure his return. Even witches admit this involved human sacrifice. And you can best believe that those higher-up elites, such as Hillary Clinton, even Trump, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, sacrifice a lot of children during this time. And according to an article in The Sun, animals and humans were both often thrown into huge fire pits as offerings. You lower-level witches out there just have to settle with sacrificing black cats or dogs. But the reality of Halloween through the eyes of the Celts and Druids is scarier than any horror film. According to old documents, in its most primitive guise, Samhain would have featured many sacrifices to the Celtic gods of death, with both animals and humans thrown into huge fire pits as offerings. People claimed the ancient Druids ate their firstborn children on Samhain or collected the blood of their sacrificial humans in cauldrons and drank it. And that's pretty much it with this article. But just from this first article alone, you should be convinced not to be celebrating these wicked holidays if you're an Israelite, because if you're one of these other heathen nations, it really doesn't matter if you celebrate it or not. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai gave you heathens over to these wicked spirits to give you something to worship. And real quick, I'm going to go to my next precept in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 10. There shall not be found among you any that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch. And right now I'm going to be dealing with where it said you shall not make your children pass through fire, which in a spiritual sense is what you're doing when you dress your kids up in Halloween costumes and send them out to get candy. You're sending them through that fire of Halloween, where you're sacrificing them and giving them over mentally to the gods of this system, because it's bringing them further away from Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai and making them rock more in the vibration of Esau, the so-called white man, which is bugging them out in their minds and making them open to this whole democratic homosexuality, pedophilic lifestyle. That's why you're seeing a bunch of bug outs now in the nation of Israel. And now I'm going to go to my next article, further cutting this wicked holiday, also on endoftheamericandream.com, titled, Where Does the Tradition of Wearing Halloween Costumes Come From? The modern tradition of wearing costumes on Halloween can be traced back more than 2,000 years to the Celts of ancient Britain during a druidic festival known as Samhain, which is still celebrated by Wiccans and other modern pagans. Revelers would often wear masks or costumes. In modern times, costumes are considered to be innocent fun, but in those times, the masks and costumes were worn for very specific spiritual purposes. For some, the goal was to ward off evil spirits, but for others, the purpose of the mask or costume was to help the participant communicate with the spirit world, Salakia. And as you will see below, there are some that still believe in this practice today. Samhain is the day when the Celts believed that the veil between the living and the dead was the thinnest. It is a day that has almost been closely associated with human death, and according to the History Channel, it is supposedly a time when the ghosts of the dead return to the earth. And that's just madness in itself, because if you understand the scriptures, you know that when a person dies, their spirit goes up into the spirit world and rests for about 3 to 4 generations before they're reborn through a male member of their lineage's seed and come back down. And a lot of these fortune tellers that channel people's long lost relatives are just channeling demons that are messing with your mind, which is why you shouldn't be given over to them, and why they should be put to death. As we read, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. This day marked the end of the summer and the harvest and the beginning of the dark cold winter, a time of year that was often associated with human death. Celts believed that on the night before the new year, the boundary between the worlds of the living and